Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today it's time for some more recent reads. All right, so I have read 5 more books, so I'm going to be sharing those with you today. 3 of which are series that I read for series September, and 2 of which are just fun new releases that I really wanted to read. So, the first book that I want to share with you today is a continuation of a series that I started in March, and that is Exile, the second book in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series by Shannon Messenger. This is a chunker of a book. It is a middle grade fantasy series following Sophie, who is our main character, who finds out in the first book that she is an elf and is kind of transported to the elf world where she has to enroll in a school, and she finds out she's very different from the other elves, and maybe there's a reason why. In this book, Sophie finds an alicorn, which is a unicorn and Pegasus combined, and develops some abilities to communicate with the alicorn, and then also has to find out some things about this area of the elven world called Exile, which is pretty much like their jail, and kind of learns a lot about her mental abilities, her abilities to travel into other people's minds, and that sort of thing. And so that's the basis for this book. But within the book as well, she also continues to deepen her relationships with some of her friends, Dex, Keith, and Fitz. And so, yeah, it's so good. The one thing that I really like about these books is that Shannon Messenger really gets into the head of 12, 13-year-olds and the beginning stages of crushes and how you're friends, but then you start having feelings and you're uncomfortable around people that you've always been comfortable around. And just, it's nothing too out there and it's nothing blatant, but it's just kind of alluded to, and it's done so well because it's so true to how kids that age act. And so I really like this one. 4 stars. I'm excited to continue the series. Yeah. All right, the other one, or another one that I read as part of series September, was a reread for me that I've been wanting to reread for a while, and that is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashares. I read this as a teenager and I loved these books, and so I wanted to see how they would translate to modern day, and not great. They don't translate great. It was still a fun read. I really enjoyed reading it, actually. I'm excited to rewatch the movies. But you realize reading them now, I realized reading them now, that some of the storylines were a little out there, especially for the age range of the girls in the book. I'm not negating the fact that they're probably accurate, but I didn't necessarily want to read about them. Yeah. So this follows 4 girls who find a pair of pants that fit all of them, even though they are all completely different body types and sizes. And they're 4 best friends that are all going to be split apart for the summer for the first time ever. And so they decide that they will send the pants to one another throughout the summer and then reconvene at the end of the summer and talk about their experiences in the pants. And so it was fine. I don't think I'll continue it. I don't know as though I would reread it again, but it was fun in the time that I read it initially, so I'm glad I reread it. All right, and then another book that I read for series September to catch up on a series is Isn't It Romantic? This is the continuation of the Bromance Book Club series by Lyssa Kay Adams. This is the 4th book in the series, I believe, and this is the story about the Russian. So in the 3 previous books, one of the boys or men of the Bromance Book Club is the Russian. He's from Russia. And so this is his story with his wife, Elena. You find out pretty early on that something's not quite right. Their marriage was a marriage of convenience. They were married, but nobody has ever met Elena, and you find out that it's because it was a marriage of convenience, and she really hasn't talked to Vlad since they've been married. They were childhood friends that got married because she needed to come to the US and kind of get away from some stuff in Russia, and he really loves her, but he doesn't really know how she feels. And so there is a lot of miscommunication going on throughout the story, and some very, very unrealistic storylines going on in her side of the story. It was fun, but I don't know if I'm going to continue this series. I feel like the farther I get into this series, I find that each of these books has a social agenda that is being pushed really, really hard. And I don't really care for that in books. That's not my cup of tea. I don't necessarily disagree with anything that the author is saying, but I also just don't, that's not why I read. I don't read to have that shoved in my face. And I feel like it's very, very forced. Has been through books 2, 3, and 4, at least for me. The first one I loved, I thought was fine. And then I feel like book 2 and on has just had a lot of social agenda pushing going on. And I'm not really here for that. So this one got 3 stars for me. It was fine. It was a fun time while I was listening to it. And I don't know if I'll continue on though. I do know that she has a Christmas like novella coming out, which I'm kind of a sucker for those, so maybe I'll give her one more chance. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, and then the next book that I want to talk with you about is a book that I really, really enjoyed. It is a very, very hyped book right now, and that is The Measure by Nikki Erlich. This is a book that is kind of a dystopian book set modern day, but in the book, everyone in the world receives a box on the same day. All these boxes show up, and on the box it says, you're something about the measure of your life is within, or something along those lines. And in the box is a string. And they find out, nobody really knows at first what it means, but they find out eventually that the string correlates to the length of your life. And so not everybody opens their box, but researchers start researching about it, and everybody starts kind of dealing with the length of their life and knowing what the length of your life will be, whether you have a long string or a short string, and what that really entails. And this book really delves in a lot into the social commentary around that, knowing how long your life could be. If you have a short string, should you be able to serve in the military? Should you be able to serve in public office? Should you date someone who has a short string, and if you know that they won't be alive for much longer? Should you, things along those lines. And so it was very, very interesting for the social commentary. I will say that there are a lot of characters to follow, and so that's definitely something to take into consideration. If that is not your jam, there is a lot of characters going on. It's told from multiple points of view. And also, the thing that knocked this down from a 5-star for me was, by the end, I thought the book was over, and then it just kept going. And then I thought it was over, and then it was one more chapter. And then I thought it was over, and it was another more chapter. And so it did kind of drag on toward the end, but it was all really good, and I really liked the way that it ended. It just kind of strung along a little longer than I thought it should. And so that knocked it down to a 4.5-star for me. But other than that, it was really well done. I loved it, and it was a very interesting book to read. There is some language in it, so definitely take that into consideration if that is something that you are against. But yeah. All right. Last book that I want to share with you is another recent release that just sparked my interest, and I really wanted to read it, and that is Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Rayburn. This is about a group of 4 60-year-old ladies that were assassins, and they are getting ready to retire. And as part of their retirement, they are sent on a cruise by their company. And while they're on the cruise, they find out that they have become the hit of an assassination. And so they are being hunted, basically. And so they have to try to escape that, and then find out why they are being targeted, who is targeting them, and why, and deal with the situation. And it was so much fun. This is very, very reminiscent of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, if you are familiar with that movie. But it was so good. 60-year-old ladies, they had their whole career that they're looking back on. You do get a lot of flashbacks to kind of their being recruited to be assassins, what that looked like, some of their earlier jobs, what some of those looked like. And so it was just a ton of fun. I will also say that the narration was really well done. I listened to the audiobook of this, and the audiobook was superbly done. And I really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I would highly recommend it. And yeah, that's it. So those are 5 books that I have read recently. I'd love to hear what you've been reading recently. And as always, these books will be linked down below if you are interested in them or adding them to your TBR. So that's going to do it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.